Scott Holiday here, and welcome back to Plus 2 Wrestling. This is my second attempt at recording this cold open. That'll make sense later. So what should we talk about? Let's talk about last week's video. Last week I made a bunch of bold predictions and put them on my 2024 bingo card. The whole point of that video was that it was going to age poorly. That was kind of the fun of it, is that I was making really bold predictions that would probably not come true. But two of them are already in huge trouble. So, one, it seems like MJF has signed with AEW. It's not confirmed yet, but word on the street is he's there until 2027, which is going to make it really hard for him to show up in the WWE. The other one that's got me worried is I claimed AEW would make a brand new singles title in 2024. And they are making a brand new singles title. It's going to be created at World's End based on whoever wins the Continental Tournament will be the Continental Champion. So I need them to make a brand new title in 2024, and they're making a brand new title 2 days before 2024. I think it's still possible, but definitely seems a bit less likely now. In any case, if you haven't checked out that video, you can check it out here. Bing! And if you have checked it out already, then by all means, stay right where you are, because we're about to plug in. Last Saturday was CZW Live on the Battleship. It was an amazing, historic show that took place on the Battleship, New Jersey. There, Chris Bishop challenged for the CZW Heavyweight Championship against Rich Swann, and the tag team titles were on the line as Milk Chocolate defended against CMD. You can see the live version of that show right now on Fight, as well as IWTV. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about Hangman versus Swerve from Full Gear in a Texas death match. Now listen, I'm going to shoot straight for you. This was not supposed to be this week's video. This was going to be the cold open. I was just going to talk a little bit about this match. And then this video right here that you're watching right now was supposed to be on factions and stables because we're right before Survivor Series. But the cold open went like really long because apparently I have a lot of feelings about this match. So it became a soapbox topic. So we're talking about that Texas death match. And let me tell you, I've never had this experience before watching a match where I was 2-3 minutes in and I was yelling, oh my God, this is a 5-star match. This might be match of the year. And by the end of that match, I hated this match. So I don't mean to yuck anyone's yum. If you enjoyed this match, I think this match is great in a vacuum, but I have a lot of problems with this match, and I just want to, use this to discuss some of the things that I took ire with. I'm not trying to go all Jim Cornette and say that this shouldn't happen or anything like that. There's just a lot of problems in this, and a lot of this is going to sound nitpicky, but this match to me is death by 1,000 cuts. When you take all these problems and you put them together, there's a big glaring issue. So let's talk about it and let's get yelled at on the internet. All right, let's go. Here's why I didn't like Swerve versus Hangman. So before we get started, I just want to let you know right now that I am a smaller YouTuber, and things like blood and guts and things that happen in this match will quickly get you demonetized, which I don't need to worry about. I'm not a monetized channel. But it also gets you suppressed. And also there's already been a lot of takedowns, including clips from Full Gear. So as a smaller YouTube that needs all the views it can get, there's not going to be any clips from this. There's not going to be any stills. So I'm going to just try to put up like semi-related images in the corner. So this is kind of related to what I'm talking about, as to not get takedowns or suppressed. I hope you understand. But let's start with the build. The build to this, when I heard that they were having a Texas death match, was kind of surprised. I was really shocked that we were going this hard with a stipulation for their second match. I was kind of expecting this to be a 3-match series and there to be a rubber match that ends with this. But it did make sense in the beginning. Swerve broke into Cowboy's home. He broke into Hangman's house where his family lives, which is a despicable thing to do. So clearly, the next day or the next week on Dynamite, Hangman Adam Page should be kicking in Tony Khan's door and demanding that he be given Swerve so he can murder him. Of course, that's not what happened. Instead, Hangman didn't address it and showed up to defend the ROH Trios titles along with the Young Bucks. It wasn't until Swerve showed up and caused a distraction that Page went after him. And I've been trying to justify this, and every time I try to justify it, I make it worse. Like, oh, maybe Hangman didn't know that Swerve was in the building. Maybe he thought Swerve wasn't there, which would probably make Hangman think, is he going to be at my house again? That would probably just make him more angry. I mean, he was probably forced into this title defense, so why isn't he upset when he comes out? Does he really care about these titles more than his family? It's a small thing, but an action like a breaking and entering and threats of violence against a man's family should cause an immediate reaction, not, I'm gonna get you, Swerve, after this match. It just seemed ill-timed and poorly executed. But then we get to the match. Swerve has a great entrance. And then we start with a hot start with Adam Page running out, attacking Swerve, and immediately hitting the buckshot lariat, which I loved. I was fully on board at this point. That is actually how we started a match at High Tension Wrestling recently.
Oh my God! Oh, we're going right to it! Right.
But this all makes a lot of sense. Hangman should not be rushing into this match and exchanging wrist locks and headlocks and tests of strength with a man who broke into his home. He should be immediately trying to murder him, and that's what he does. He then ties up Swerve's hands with what they continuously call duct tape, even though it's clearly gaffer tape. It's not that different, really. It's a little bit easier to tear, and it's used more in theater, while duct tape is used more in ducks. But that's a small thing. We then bring out the staple gun. Let's talk about the staple gun, because I was actually going to do a match that involved a staple gun spot. Why? Because staple guns are really easy to fake. You just don't load them. Or what you can do is you can put a few staples in, and then you fire the staple gun at like a trash can or a steel chair, something that makes a clang noise. This way the crowd all knows, okay, that is a loaded staple gun. And then once it's empty, once you've emptied the clip, then you go up to your opponent and you're like, ka-chow, and it doesn't hurt you. That was a spot I was planning on doing. We ended up cutting it. I didn't even have that match. But in any case, I like the staple gun because it gets a good pop, and it's real easy to do. Now, some smarter fans are aware that sometimes people fake the staple gun spot. And they made sure to let you know that they were not faking this spot. I don't know if it was the cameras or the lighting, but you could clearly see every staple that went into Swerve's body. Just the way the light caught it and it sparkled, and it was like a very light colored silver, so it was very obvious and clear to see. Swerve took some punishment here, and the moment that Hangman took the finger paint drawing out and then used that to staple it to Swerve's face, such an amazing visual. I was applauding. I was like, they're going hard. They're doing a really good match. This is absolutely incredible. There's also a moment where Nana, like, comforts Swerve. Like, Swerve falls down and he's talking to Nana, who's clearly giving him a gig, but we're going to pretend like we don't know that because we're not insiders, we're just fans here. And Swerve comes up just absolutely covered in blood. A leaky faucet to the point where Hangman slides underneath him and drinks the blood. At that point, I remember thinking, this is the Hangman I missed. This is the Hangman I used to believe in and was AEW champion. At this point, Hangman doesn't even need to win this match. What's happened here is just so raw and full of so much emotion. It is a death match telling a story here. I am fully on board. But we're about to make a left turn. We then have a moment where Swerve is getting back up, and Hangman continues to pump in those staples, and they start to have no effect. He kind of starts hulking up. The staple gun doesn't work anymore, and then finally, Swerve is able to turn the tables, staples Adam Page in the head. There's like 9 things wrong with this, so let's break it down. First off, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've ever seen a staple gun used in mainstream wrestling. I know that the WWE has never used it. I don't believe AEW has used it. Maybe during the Nick Gage-Chris Jericho match? But I don't know for sure. And I think maybe it showed up in TNA for a little bit. But the staple gun is a staple, of independent death matches. And to see it on this big stage is great to see. You know, I'm the CZW commentator. I enjoy this type of wrestling. And in the first exposure of the staple gun, we have Swerve no selling it. So, in the course of this match, the idea and concept of the staple gun is introduced and then discredited to the point that Swerve starts stapling himself to show how tough he is. So now, next time we see one of these, do we care? Like, the next time you see a death match with the staple gun, you'll remember, oh yeah, Swerve took staples. Didn't hurt him. So there's the first thing that I feel got buried in this match. The credibility of the staple gun is lost in this match. On top of that, this kind of like, as I said, hulking up. This is such babyface fire. The idea that Swerve is being beaten up, he's beaten down, but bravely gets back to his feet, bravely overcomes the obstacle of getting hit with staples, and then gets payback on Adam Page by staple gunning him back. That's a babyface journey. And I know that we kind of live in this time where it's not clear, you know, faces and heels and shades of gray, and we believe that the audience is smarter to just believe in good guys and bad guys. But I think it's a bit weird to have a spot like this that makes us go, yeah, guy who broke into a man's house and threatened his children, I believe in you. Get your comeuppance. He hit you with a staple gun. Now you guys are even? It just seemed like an odd choice. On top of that, this is where he goes to Nana and Nana cuts the duct tape or gaffer tape off his wrist. Why didn't he do that the first time? I know he was just slipping him a gig, but like, if Nana as a manager can do that, can free Swerve, can help and interfere in this matchup, what takes him so long? Did he know that he needed to be hit with a certain number of staples before he gets superpowers and can ignore them? Again, I know this sounds like a nitpick, but this is going to be important later because it bothers me. So let's move on to the next big spot, which is the cinder block. Cinder block is a thing I'm not a big fan of in professional wrestling because they're often fake. And that's the difference between a tangible weapon and an intangible weapon. A tangible weapon is something that the average person could get their hands on and understand. Like a steel chair. Like, you could feel a steel chair. You may never be hit with one, but you can feel how hard and metal it is. You could swing one. I know if you're a child and you see a steel chair and you're asked to move it, you kind of instinctually do this. You have a tangible idea of what a steel chair feels like. Going through a table, less tangible. Like, you might feel a table, you know how it feels, but you're never thinking about hitting someone with it. It's the idea of falling, breaking the table, and landing on the ground. That's something that the average person doesn't really know how it feels. Because we, as insiders, know that you'd much rather fall off the top rope through a table than fall off the top rope to the floor. Ask MJF. The cinder block is a more tangible weapon. We might not all have dealt with cinder blocks, but we know big heavy brick, right? I think we can all understand big heavy brick. We all kind of know what a cinder block is. It's used to build buildings. So when we see the DVD on the cinder block, we know, okay, cinder block hard. That's like, it's not the ring. I know that was even the hardest part of the ring. That was the apron. But he landed on the cinder block. That's damage right now. That's going to be a near fall. We're going to see like a count to probably 7 or 8. We don't. They don't even count. Instead, they just kind of lay on the ground and they accidentally knock the cinder block off the ring and it shatters, which cinder block shouldn't do. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not a really big deal. Like, props fail all the time, so the cinder block broke when it fell a small distance. That's fine. Just, don't bring it up on commentary. They immediately bring it up on commentary. Immediately they're like, oh no, the cinder block has fallen and is shattered. And Taz says, oh yeah, that dust that's inside the cinder block has gotten everywhere. What makes a cinder block scary as a weapon is not the fact that it's full of dust. I mean, I guess if you're asthmatic, maybe, but the idea is cinder block hard, not cinder block dusty. So a lot of credibility was lost there. Remember this. As we move on to one of the most insane spots of the night, probably the most insane spot in my opinion, and that is the pile driver on the guardrail. Now, to me, as a commentator, that is a mood shift maneuver. Basically, after that move, I would have to change my commentary style from, oh my god, this match is insane! What are these two willing to do to one another in order to win this match? To, oh my god, that's not a match-ending move. That is a career-ending move. We need to stop this for Hangman's health. The pile driver has been built up as a career ender. Like, there's a reason we really don't see them on WWE TV. Like, we have The Undertaker who does them, and then Bad Bunny does Destroyers. But that's it. Because it's built up as this move that can end you. I mean, they did a paralyzed storyline with Kurt Angle with that. TNA actually did a great job with the pile driver when Bully Ray was like, I'm going to go to the place where you're afraid to go. pile driver. I'm going to hit a pile driver on exposed wood. That's going to end your career and lessen your quality of life. The reaction to this pile driver being done onto a thin steel guardrail is, ha! How do you even do that? No. At that moment, things should stop being about Swerve. Hangman, the baby face in this scenario, remember? He's supposed to be the baby face? Someone broke into his house? He's just been demolished. Something truly horrible has happened to him. This match is over. When this move happens, they don't even show Hangman. Now, this is probably because he's gigging the top of his head because they were trying to add some blood. But the idea that you hit a move like this and then you do a close-up on Swerve, who's pouring water over his head, it completely delegitimizes the match. Because the ref isn't even shown counting to 10. Instead, we just have Swerve sitting there. Like, we as the audience don't assume Hangman is standing after a move like that. We should have that tension of 5, 6, 7, and he makes it to his feet on 9. If you're not going to play in the drama of that maneuver, why do it? We need that release after a move like that of Hangman's going to keep fighting. And if you're not going to do that, why do a move like that? And that is going to become kind of the trend for the rest of this match is why do that? And now we're up to 2 things that have been delegitimized. We've lost the staple gun and the pile driver. So then we have a comeback from Paige, and Paige hits a tombstone onto a barbed wire chair. This is the first time that I really remember seeing the ref count. But this is important. He hits the tombstone, and what is the response from commentary? Finally, it's that of concern. Taz yells out, "God, just cover him and end it." And Excalibur goes, "It's last man standing. It's knockout or submission." Were the commentators unaware of the rules of this match? For a match that's truly the semi-main, sorry Young Bucks, but truly like the second most important match on this card, for the commentator to be ill-prepared to tell the story that needs to be told here is unforgivable. And yeah, you could just say that it was a goof, it was a mistake, but there is no talk of the 10 count until after this moment. Now, you can make the argument, it's like, oh, these 2 guys are trying to kill each other. They're not trying to win the match. Up until, like, this point is when they actually try to start to win because they have inflicted enough damage on one another. But still, you need to tell the story of the match. Despite the fact that it has a staple gun, a barbed wire chair, a cinder block, and the guardrail, we're supposed to be telling the story that this is still a legitimate sport. So you need to at least be aware of the rules of the match. You should treat a maneuver like the pile driver, like a match ender at the very least. So then, Hangman is up on the top rope, and Swerve swings a chair. That same barbed wire chair hits him in the back, and a piece of the barbed wire comes up and wraps around Hangman's face. That was awesome. That was unbelievable. It was really dangerous, and you shouldn't do that. But I popped. It was really cool. Anyway, that brings me to my next problem, which is then the bag. Swerve goes under the ring and comes out with a black bag. And the commentators all act like we all know what this is. This is thumbtacks. And then they are horrified to find out that it is glass. This is a great way to build credibility onto a newly introduced item. They've done broken glass before in, I believe it was a blood and guts match in AEW. Again, TNA used to do the glass bottom boats, used to do the glass tables. There's also, of course, a glass table in the Kenny Omega Moxley feud. But shards of broken glass are less common than thumbtacks in mainstream wrestling. So to put this onus on them that like, oh, we thought it was thumbtacks, but it's worse. It's broken glass. That is an amazing thing to do to this. But I would like to point out a phrase that Excalibur says. He says, "This is completely unnecessary." And truer words had never been spoken, because until I went back and rewatched this match for this video, I had forgotten this spot happened. An insane spot's about to take place with broken glass. I forgot that it happened because so much other insane things happened that I forgot all about the broken glass spot. So let's talk about the broken glass spot. Swerve pours broken glass onto the back of Hangman Adam Page. He then ascends to the top rope and does a 450 splash onto the back and glass on Hangman, and then rolls over and sells it because he just jumped onto broken glass. Now, normally, as a commentator, this is a great spot to be like, look what Swerve is willing to do to his own body to destroy Hangman. And normally I would say that. But Swerve's also the guy whose finishing maneuver is a double stomp. This kind of made Swerve look stupid. Because clearly, jumping with both feet, your booted feet, onto the back of Hangman would be more devastating and safer for you. The 450 kind of comes out of nowhere and injures yourself. So that's already dumb. Now, think back on this match. What's the count at? When does Hangman get up after this maneuver? I'll give you a second. Write in the comments if you want. What number do you think he gets up at? I'll wait. 0. There's no count after this move. He then hits a JML driver, which is fine, but it discredits the glass. Because you did this big, insane move with glass and high flying and risk taking, and your immediate thought was, that's not going to be enough to put him away. I should hit this standard wrestling maneuver that I've used in matches before. Let's add it to the list. Staple guns, cinder blocks, pile drivers, and now broken glass take a hit to their credibility in this match. And I forgot that this move happened. So let's fast forward some more stuff happens. We have that insane moonsault to the outside with the barbed wire chair that Hangman does. And then we get the barbed wire board. They pull out this board, and clearly there's something spray painted or painted on the bottom of this board. It looks like a skull, and they never show it to the camera. Like, whatever the paint job was on this gets completely wasted. So commentary just kind of starts guessing. They're like, I think it says Swerve's house on the bottom of that board. You gotta show that off. Nitpick. What then bothers me is Taz, on commentary, says, "That's not a very thick piece of wood." You know that these two are about to throw their bodies through this board that is completely covered in barbed wire. Let's not delegitimize the stakes here by mentioning that the board is a bit flimsy. That's not a thing you ever need to talk about. Like, there's never a reason for commentary to say, "Wow, let's view the thickness of the table." No, there's no reason to ever do that. The fact that Taz brings it up at all is infuriating. And then, if you listen, the crowd starts their first chant for "We want fire." Because at this point, with the broken glass, the pile driver, the cinder blocks, the barbed wire, what else would end this match? You gotta find some way to up the stakes, so the crowd starts asking for fire. We don't get fire, though. They ascend the top rope. We get kind of this backflip power slam from Hangman, who then hops up, hits a power bomb, who then hops up and hits a Deadeye. And then Swerve is on his knees by 4. After all those 3 insane maneuvers going through the barbed wire board, 2 more moves onto that barbed wire board, one of which is one of Hangman's finishers, the Deadeye. He's on his knees by 4? Like, he's not unconscious at this point? So Hangman continues the assault, hits a buckshot lariat, and now the count's getting pretty high. And if it wasn't for Prince Nana pulling out Swerve and getting him on his feet, the match would be over. This is fine. Nana is out there to help. It takes him a little long to cut gaffer tape, but that's fine. He's there to help. But then Brian Cage comes out. And at that moment, I was like, oh, this match doesn't matter anymore. Because either Hangman is still going to win somehow, and he's made everyone look terrible, or Swerve's going to win, and we're all going to look at it as, yeah, but you needed help from the machine. And the problem with this moment is, one, he immediately pulls out a table, and at this point, what's the point of a table? Like, the idea that we've already had barbed wire boards, broken glass, cinder blocks, guardrails. It's a table. Like, at this point, that has as much value as a wrist lock. And 2, why is Cage coming out now? Like, we saw Swerve get hit with that steel chair barbed wire moonsault. Cage was like, nah, Swerve got it. We had a whole chunk of time where Swerve was helpless, duct taped, bound, eating staples, literally in the mouth. Cage was like, nah, he's got it. It's not until Nana has already broken the count that would have ended this match that Brian Cage is like, I should get involved at this point. If it's a death match and there are no rules, why wouldn't Brian Cage come out immediately if this is the plan? I hate this. It makes me think back to the I Quit match between Miz and John Cena. It's not the best match, but it opens with Miz saying, there's no rules. Alex Riley's just going to be here. This is going to be a handicap match now. What you going to do about it? You can just do that. But the fact that Brian Cage is in catering, like, I think Swerve's got it. If it gets risky, I'll run out. It just makes all of it a little silly. And now it's time for Swerve to make his big comeback. What devious thing is Swerve going to do? He hits him with the cinder block. what remains of that cinder rock, and it explodes, which again is not a thing that cinder blocks really do. Like, if you hit one with a sledgehammer, it will crack and maybe crumble a little bit, but it doesn't dissipate into dust. And this is not me saying, like, hit him with a real cinder block. This is me saying, don't do this spot. Or, if you're going to use something that's not really a cinder block, don't have it explode into dust. If you hit someone with a hard thing and it breaks, then there's give. If you hit them with a hard thing and it doesn't break, then that must be a really hard thing. We then end with the Hangman spot. He takes the chain, wraps it around Adam Page's neck, hangs him the same way that Adam Page beat Jon Moxley. Except Page doesn't tap out. He passes out, almost gets up at 9, and then the match ends. I think this kind of hurts Mox in a weird way, because Mox immediately tapped out to the exact same spot, so I guess we still needed to protect Page to show that he's at least harder than Mox in this loss to Swerve. But in the course of this match, you have hurt the credibility of cinder blocks, pile drivers, broken glass, staple guns, Jon Moxley. In a vacuum, this is a great match. It really is. But in the grander scheme of things of what this means for professional wrestling, I feel like it's a bad thing. Like, I heard the Bryans say this. Brian Alvarez over on Wrestle Observer said, they set a standard. Brian Zane over at Wrestling with Regret said, they set the bar pretty high. Let me make this clear. This should not be the bar. This should be the ceiling. We should not go any further than we did in this match. No one should see this match and go, man, I really need to top this. Jon Moxley's not allowed to watch this match at all. That should just be a rule. I think this match had a lot of great potential, but all these little problems add up to a bunch of hurt credibility for the future of deathmatch wrestling. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm just cranky. But let me tell you, one thing's for sure. I sure didn't give a crap about the next match after this. It was so hard to go from this match where two people tried to kill each other after a home invasion to going to the Young Bucks are mad that Kenny Omega made a new friend. I have to go back and rewatch that match because I could not be in the proper mind state to enjoy that matchup. So that's my thoughts. I think there's a lot of good stuff in this, but if you took out the broken glass spot and the pile driver on the guardrail and the cinder block, I don't think I'd have a problem with this match. I think all my problems would be very small and nitpicky. But those are the glaring issues compounded by all the other issues I have. I just didn't enjoy it. But that's just me. This is my channel. If you enjoyed that match, I'm glad. I'm glad that you enjoyed that match. Please sound off in the comments. Tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. Or let's just go back to last video and tell me your 2024 bold predictions for your bingo card. In any case, thank you so much for staying through this entire video. I know a lot of people really love this match, so the fact that you stayed here while I was being critical, something I really, really appreciate. Thank you so much. So, if I could ask one more thing of you, feel free to subscribe, so you'll get a notification next time I upload one of these ranty videos. And on top of that, I hope you have a great day.